Hey everyone! Welcome to Stories for Sleep. Are you ready for a magical journey to dreamland? Grab your favorite pillow, snuggle up, and let our enchanting bedtime stories whisk you away to a world of wonder. Each story is crafted to calm your mind and soothe your soul, preparing you for the sweetest dreams. If you're loving the story so far, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more dreamy tales. Hit the bell icon so you never miss a new story. Let's dive into tonight's adventure, where the stars shine a little brighter and the night feels a little more magical. In the quiet village of Elmswood, people whispered about a lake that sang at midnight. They called it the Haunted Lake. The villagers believed the soft, eerie melody that echoed across the water was a ghostly call. Anyone who dared to follow the song never returned. Children were warned to stay away, but the mystery always lingered in their curious minds. The lake was surrounded by thick trees that swayed even when there was no wind, adding to its creepy charm. One chilly evening, a young man named Ethan visited the village. He was a writer, always seeking new stories. Hearing about the lake, he grew curious. A singing lake? That sounds fascinating, Ethan thought. Ignoring the warnings, he decided to uncover the truth. Little did he know, the lake held secrets darker than he could imagine. Ethan arrived at the lake just as the moon rose high in the sky. The water shimmered under the pale light, looking calm but strange. As the clock struck midnight, a soft, haunting tune filled the air. It wasn't loud, but it was beautiful and sad, like a lullaby sung by someone lost. The sound seemed to pull at his heart, urging him to come closer. Ethan stood frozen, his curiosity battling fear. "Who's singing?" he whispered, stepping closer to the water. Suddenly he saw faint ripples in the lake, though no one was there. A chill ran down his spine, but instead of running away, he decided to stay. Something told him that the song wanted him to uncover its story. Somewhere in the valley beyond the canyon, the crying baby. The next morning, Ethan went to the village elder, an old woman named Martha. She had lived there her whole life and knew the lake's history. Martha hesitated but finally spoke. Years ago, a young girl named Lily loved to sing by the lake. One stormy night she vanished. People say her spirit sings at midnight, calling for help. Ethan grew more curious. That night, he returned to the lake with a lantern and a notebook. As the song began, he noticed something he hadn't seen before, a faint glow under the water near the shore. He leaned closer, and his lantern's light revealed an old, rusty locket tangled in the reeds. This must belong to Lily, Ethan thought, feeling a strange connection to her story. That night, Ethan returned to the lake with the locket and a bouquet of white lilies. As the midnight melody began, he walked to the water's edge and called out, "Lily, I know your story. You can rest now." He placed the locket and flowers on the water, watching them float. The song grew louder, more beautiful than ever before. The air grew still, and a soft light rose from the lake, forming the outline of a girl. She smiled at Ethan, her eyes filled with gratitude. Then the light faded, and the lake fell silent. The haunting melody was never heard again. Ethan returned to the village, knowing he had freed Lily's spirit. But the memory of her song stayed with him forever. For weeks, the lake remained silent. The villagers were relieved, thinking the ghostly melody had vanished forever. Ethan, however, couldn't shake off the feeling that the story wasn't over. He had helped Lily find peace, but something about the lake still felt unsettling. One evening, as he walked by the shore, he noticed the water rippling, even though the wind was still. A soft whisper carried through the air, faint but distinct. "Not all secrets have been uncovered," the voice seemed to say. Ethan froze, his heart pounding. Was Lily trying to warn him about something else? Or had he missed a piece of the puzzle? He decided to stay longer in the village to investigate further. Ethan revisited the village elder, Martha, hoping she might know more. There was someone else, she finally admitted, a boy named Samuel. He loved Lily, but after her disappearance, he left the village and was never seen again. Martha handed Ethan a dusty old journal. "This belonged to him," she said. Ethan spent hours reading the journal. Samuel had written about how Lily often spoke of strange lights she saw over the lake at night, lights that seemed to call her. His final entry was chilling. "I heard the song last night. It was calling to me too. I'm going to the lake tonight. If I don't return, know that something terrible waits beneath the water." Ethan felt a growing sense of dread. That night he returned to the lake, carrying Samuel's journal. As he approached the shore, the faint song returned, more sorrowful than before. This time, he noticed shadows moving beneath the water, twisting and turning as though alive. Using his flashlight, Ethan scanned the surface and noticed something sticking out of the muddy bottom. A chain. Carefully, he pulled it out, revealing a heavy, rusted lockbox. The song grew louder, almost as if urging him to open it. With trembling hands, he pried it open, finding old letters and a rusted dagger inside. The letters were from Lily to Samuel, detailing how she had discovered the lake's strange powers. The letters revealed a horrifying truth. The lake wasn't just haunted, it was cursed. Long ago, villagers had made sacrifices to the lake to protect their crops during a terrible drought. The curse demanded lives, and anyone who got too close to the lake's secret was taken. Lily had uncovered this truth, and the lake had claimed her as its final victim. Ethan realized the curse was still active. The lake had lured him here, just as it had lured Samuel and others. But why now, he wondered aloud. The answer came in the form of another whisper, this one darker and angrier. "Because you disturbed the silence," it said. Ethan knew he had to act quickly. He gathered the letters and the dagger, believing they held the key to ending the curse. That night, he stood at the edge of the lake and called out, "I know your secret! The sacrifices must end!" The water began to churn violently, and dark figures emerged, their faces twisted with anger and sorrow. The figures reached for Ethan, but he held up the dagger, which glowed faintly in the moonlight. The song turned into a scream, piercing the night. "This dagger belongs to you," Ethan shouted, throwing it into the water. The figures froze, then slowly dissolved into the lake. The water grew calm, and the eerie melody faded into silence once more. The next morning, Ethan shared everything he had learned with Martha and the villagers. They were shocked but grateful. "The lake's curse has been broken," Ethan told them. "It will no longer harm anyone." The villagers held a small ceremony by the lake, offering flowers and prayers for the lives it had claimed. Ethan stayed to ensure the peace lasted. The lake no longer sang, and the mysterious lights disappeared. For the first time in decades, the villagers felt safe walking near the water. They thanked Ethan for his bravery, calling him a hero, though he still felt haunted by the memories of what he had seen. Before leaving the village, Ethan took one last walk by the lake. It was quiet and peaceful, as if it had never been cursed. But as he turned to leave, he heard a faint, almost comforting melody. It wasn't eerie or sad this time. It was gentle, like a farewell. Ethan smiled, realizing it was Lily's way of saying goodbye. He left Elmswood with a heavy heart but a sense of accomplishment. The lake's secrets had been uncovered, its curse lifted. Yet deep down, Ethan knew he would never forget the midnight song or the shadows that had danced beneath the haunted waters. Ethan thought his journey had ended, but as he traveled away from Elmswood, he encountered a wandering old man. The man stopped Ethan, his piercing eyes filled with urgency. "You've been to the lake," he said, his voice trembling. Ethan was startled, but nodded. "The curse is never truly gone," the man continued. "It sleeps, waiting for a mistake to wake it again. Did you leave anything behind, anything that might tie you to its waters?" Ethan's heart skipped a beat as he recalled the letters he had left with Martha. Could they still hold a piece of the lake's darkness? Ethan rushed back to Elmswood, his mind racing. When he arrived, he found Martha reading one of Lily's letters. Her face was pale, and her hands trembled as she clutched the paper. "I heard the song again," she whispered. Ethan's blood ran cold. The lake was stirring once more. He examined the letters carefully, looking for clues. Hidden in the final pages was an unfamiliar symbol, a circle with jagged lines running through it. It felt like a seal, binding something within the words. These letters are more than just memories, Ethan realized. They're part of the curse. Martha told Ethan of an ancient ritual mentioned in village legends. "They say the lake can only be silenced with a binding ceremony," she explained. "But it's dangerous. If done wrong, it could awaken the curse even stronger." Ethan knew they had no choice. The ritual required 3 items: something from the cursed, something pure, and something broken. Ethan had Lily's locket as the cursed object. For purity, they chose a fresh lily from the village gardens. The broken object was an old mirror, shattered long ago near the lake. As the clock struck midnight, they prepared to perform the ritual. As Ethan and Martha stood by the lake, the water began to ripple violently. The song returned, louder and more haunting than ever. Shadows rose from the depths, their forms darker and more menacing. They surrounded the pair, their whispers filling the air. "You cannot bind us," they hissed. Ethan placed the items at the lake's edge, reciting the words of the ritual from the village's oldest text. The shadows lashed out, trying to stop him, but Martha held firm, chanting alongside him. The locket began to glow, and the lake's surface shimmered with an eerie light. Suddenly, the shadows merged into one massive figure, towering over Ethan and Martha. It had no face, only glowing eyes that burned with rage. "You think you can break what was created centuries ago?" it roared. Ethan's voice faltered, fear gripping him, but Martha pressed on. The glowing locket began to emit a high-pitched hum, and the lily floated into the air. The broken mirror reflected the shadowy figure, causing it to writhe in pain. Ethan realized the mirror was key to defeating it. He aimed the reflection directly at the figure, forcing it back toward the water. The lake churned violently, waves crashing onto the shore as the figure struggled to remain outside its depths. "You will regret this," it screamed, its voice echoing through the night. Ethan and Martha continued chanting, their voices steady despite the chaos around them. With a final burst of energy, the locket shattered into pieces, releasing a blinding light. The shadowy figure let out a piercing cry as it was dragged back into the lake. The water stilled, and the song faded into silence. Ethan and Martha collapsed, exhausted but relieved. The ritual had worked. For now, in the days that followed, the villagers noticed a change in the lake. The water was clearer, reflecting the sky like a perfect mirror. The air felt lighter, as if a weight had been lifted. But Ethan knew the peace came at a cost. He visited Martha, who had fallen ill after the ritual. "The lake took something from me," she said weakly. "But it's worth it. The village is safe." Ethan felt a pang of guilt, realizing how much Martha had sacrificed to protect the place she called home. Before leaving Elmswood for good, Ethan walked to the lake one last time. The water was calm, and there was no sign of the haunting melody. He placed a small stone on the shore as a marker of everything that had happened. As he turned to leave, a soft breeze carried a faint whisper, "Thank you." Ethan smiled, knowing it was Lily's voice, a sign that her spirit was finally at peace. He left the village with a heavy heart but a sense of closure, vowing never to forget the midnight song or the courage it took to silence it. Months had passed, and Ethan found himself haunted by dreams of the lake. Each night he heard faint whispers calling his name, urging him to return. He tried to ignore them, but the dreams grew stronger, pulling at his thoughts even during the day. One evening, Ethan received an unexpected letter from Martha. It was brief but alarming. "The lake is not as silent as we thought. Come back. It's happening again." His heart sank. He had thought the curse was broken, but the haunting wasn't over. What about when Ethan returned to Elmswood? He found the village eerily quiet. Marta greeted him, her face pale and eyes shadowed with worry. "I've seen strange things," she said. "The shadows, they're back." Ethan couldn't believe it. How could the ritual have failed? Together they revisited the lake, where they found small ripples disturbing its surface. A faint melody lingered in the air, almost too soft to hear. Ethan knew the curse had only been weakened, not destroyed. They needed to uncover the lake's deeper secrets to end this nightmare once and for all. Martha revealed an old journal she had found in her grandmother's attic. It belonged to a man named Elias, a fisherman who had lived in Elmswood centuries ago. The journal spoke of a woman who had drowned in the lake, betrayed by someone she loved. Her spirit had cursed the waters, vowing to haunt anyone who disturbed her peace. The curse wasn't just about the lake, Ethan realized. It was about betrayal. It feeds on broken trust. The journal hinted at a final ritual, one that required confronting the spirit directly, a task far more dangerous than the first. Ethan and Martha prepared for the ritual, which required them to dive into the lake. According to the journal, the spirit's true form rested at the bottom, trapped but still powerful. They gathered supplies, lanterns, ropes, and an ancient amulet from the journal's instructions. As they entered the water, a chill ran through their bodies. The lake felt alive, its currents pulling them deeper. Ethan clutched the amulet tightly, praying it would protect them. Shadows moved beneath them, and the haunting song grew louder, echoing through the dark waters. At the bottom of the lake, they found an old chest, half buried in the sand. As they opened it, a ghostly figure appeared, her eyes filled with sorrow and rage. "Why have you come here?" she demanded, her voice a mixture of anguish and fury. Ethan stepped forward, holding the amulet. "We're here to end this. You don't have to suffer anymore." The spirit's expression softened for a moment, but her pain quickly returned. "You think it's that simple?" she said. "The betrayal cannot be undone?" Her form began to shift, growing darker and more menacing. The spirit demanded they prove their sincerity. "You must face your own betrayals," she said. Ethan was suddenly pulled into a vision of his past, reliving moments of guilt and regret. He saw faces of people he had hurt and choices he had avoided. Martha experienced her own trial, facing the guilt of mistakes she had hidden from others. The spirit watched them closely, waiting to see if they would falter, but they stood firm, admitting their faults and vowing to make amends. The spirit seemed to waver, her form flickering like a dying flame. Ethan and Martha recited the final incantation from the journal, their voices steady despite the spirit's cries. The amulet began to glow, and the chest at the lake's bottom sealed itself shut. The spirit let out a final wail, her form dissolving into a swirl of light. As the lake grew calm, the haunting song faded completely. The water sparkled under the moonlight, as if it had been purified. Ethan and Martha surfaced, gasping for air but relieved. The curse had finally been laid to rest, and the spirit was free. Back in the village, the air felt different, lighter, as if the weight of centuries had been lifted. The villagers, sensing the change, celebrated the end of the lake's haunting. Ethan and Martha shared a quiet moment by the shore, watching the sunrise. "This time it's really over," Martha said, her voice filled with hope. Ethan nodded, feeling a sense of peace he hadn't known in years. As the first light of dawn touched the lake, it seemed to shimmer with gratitude, its waters finally at rest. Even though the lake was peaceful again, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that something was left unfinished. As he sat by the water's edge one evening, a soft breeze carried a faint whisper. It wasn't the haunting song, but a gentle voice, almost like a farewell. Martha joined him, sensing his unease. "What's wrong?" she asked. Ethan hesitated before replying. "I think she left something behind. Something we don't understand yet." The lake shimmered under the moonlight, as if it was listening, holding on to one last secret. The next morning, Ethan and Martha revisited the journal, combing through its worn pages for clues. Near the end, they found a passage they had overlooked. "When the lake is silenced, its truth will rise to the surface." It puzzled them. What truth could remain? Later that day, the villagers discovered an old wooden box washed ashore. Inside were letters and drawings, telling the story of the woman who had cursed the lake. They revealed her name, Isla, and her wish for forgiveness, not vengeance. It was clear her spirit longed for understanding more than anything else. The letters described Isla's love for a man who had promised to marry her but betrayed her for wealth. Her grief had consumed her, and she cursed the lake in her final moments, believing no one could be trusted. Ethan read the words aloud to the villagers, who listened in silence. Martha added, "Her story deserves to be remembered, not feared. Perhaps that's what she wanted all along." The villagers agreed to hold a small ceremony to honor Isla, turning her tragic tale into a lesson of compassion and trust. On a quiet evening, the villagers gathered by the lake, holding candles and flowers. Ethan and Martha led the ceremony, recounting Isla's story and offering words of forgiveness. They placed the letters in a small boat and set it adrift on the water. As the boat floated away, the lake seemed to glow under the moonlight. A soft, melodic hum filled the air, not haunting but peaceful. It was as if Isla's spirit was finally at rest, her pain soothed by the kindness of those who remembered her. In the days that followed, the lake became a place of beauty and joy. Children played along its shores, and families gathered for picnics. The villagers, once afraid to go near the water, now saw it as a symbol of renewal and forgiveness. Ethan and Martha felt a deep sense of fulfillment. They had not only ended the curse, but also helped the village heal from years of fear. The lake was no longer haunted. It was a reminder that even the deepest wounds could be healed with understanding and kindness. Ethan decided it was time to leave Elmswood and return to his life, knowing the village no longer needed him. As he stood by the lake one last time, he felt a gentle breeze brush his face. It carried a faint, familiar whisper, "Thank you." Martha walked up beside him. "You'll come back, won't you?" she asked with a smile. Ethan nodded. "This place will always be a part of me." As he walked away, the lake sparkled in the sunlight, a serene reflection of the peace that now surrounded it. Years passed, and Elmswood flourished. Ethan, now living far from the village, often thought of the lake and the peace that had come after Isla's story was shared. Yet, deep within him, there remained a promise to never forget the lessons learned from that dark chapter in his life. One evening, Ethan returned to Elmswood to visit, and as he approached the lake, he found Martha standing by the shore. She looked older, but her eyes still sparkled with the same wisdom. "It's good to see you," she said softly. "The village has changed, and so have we." As they sat by the now peaceful lake, a strange feeling washed over Ethan. It was a sense of déjà vu, as if something was quietly calling them back. "I thought the song was gone forever," he said, looking out at the water. Martha listened carefully. The soft, melodious tune of the lake song could be heard, faint but unmistakable. It was no longer filled with sorrow, but seemed more like a lullaby. The air around them felt calm, yet there was a sense that the lake still held secrets, waiting to be discovered. Ethan and Martha decided to explore the lake once more, convinced there was still something hidden beneath its serene surface. They gathered the villagers, and together they set out to uncover the truth. They believed Isla's story had not ended with forgiveness. There was more to her legacy. The villagers noticed something unusual in the water, strange lights flickering beneath the surface. It wasn't just the reflections of the stars. Something alive, something powerful was stirring. The air grew thick with anticipation as they all silently waited for what would come next. As they gazed into the water, a sudden vision appeared before them. It was Isla, her form shimmering like a ghost. This time she was not angry or vengeful, but serene, her face glowing with peace. "I was never truly gone," she said softly, "but my purpose was unfinished." The villagers watched in awe as Isla's spirit explained, "I had to leave a part of myself here, to remind you all of the importance of trust, forgiveness, and compassion. Now my spirit can rest, knowing you understand." With those final words, she faded into the mist, leaving only the soft echo of her voice. After Isla's vision faded, the villagers found something extraordinary. At the very heart of the lake, a glowing stone emerged from the water. It was shaped like a heart, pulsating with light. The villagers gathered around it, sensing its power. Ethan stepped forward and reached out, his fingers brushing the stone's surface. The moment he touched it, a warm wave of energy washed over him, filling him with a sense of calm and understanding. "This is the heart of the lake," he said, "a reminder of everything we've learned." The heart of the lake was placed on the shore, where it was carefully protected. The village began to thrive in ways they had never imagined. The curse was truly over, but the lessons it taught them remained. Trust and unity became the foundation of their lives. Ethan and Martha continued to visit, knowing that the lake would always be a part of them. They had witnessed its transformation from a place of fear to one of healing and peace. Every time they looked at the water, they remembered Isla's story and the power of forgiveness. Over time, the lake grew more beautiful, its waters clearer than ever before. The song, though faint, continued to echo in the hearts of the villagers. It no longer sounded like a haunting melody, but like a soft lullaby, reminding everyone of the journey they had shared. Ethan, now an old man, stood by the water one last time. "The lake has given us so much," he whispered, "and now it's time for us to give back." He placed a flower on the water, watching as it drifted away, symbolizing his eternal gratitude. As the years passed, Elmswood became a place of peace and reflection. Visitors came from far and wide, not to witness the lake's haunting, but to learn the story of Isla and the lessons she had left behind. The lake's song was now a symbol of hope, healing, and second chances. On the final day of his life, Ethan returned to the lake. He sat quietly by the shore, knowing his journey had come to an end. The song of the lake, gentle and calm, filled the air. He closed his eyes, letting the peaceful melody guide him into the next life, where he would finally reunite with the spirits of the lake. Years passed, and Elmswood had grown even more peaceful. The villagers, now old and wise, would often gather by the lake to remember the lessons learned from Isla's story. Though the haunting song was no longer heard, its melody lived in their hearts, guiding them through every difficult moment. One summer evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, a strange stillness fell over the lake. For the first time in many years, the villagers heard a faint tune rising from the depths, a melody that was neither sad nor fearful, but gentle and reassuring. It was as though the lake itself was singing a lullaby for the world. The legend of Isla lived on in Elmswood, and over time, more visitors came to witness the village's transformation. Many came seeking answers, hoping to understand the mysterious song and the secrets hidden in the lake. Some left with stories of their own, stories of personal healing and new beginnings. Ethan's journal, passed down through the generations, became a cherished relic in the village. It was a reminder of the darkness they had overcome, the love they had shared, and the peace they had found. The villagers would often gather around the journal, reading aloud from its pages, keeping Isla's memory alive. As the years went by, a new generation of villagers took responsibility for the lake. These new guardians were chosen not because of their strength, but because of their wisdom, kindness, and respect for the lake's history. They were taught that the song was not just a story, but a living memory that needed to be cared for. One young guardian, a girl named Clara, stood by the lake one evening. She had heard the stories all her life, and now she was tasked with keeping them alive. As she gazed at the water, a faint melody drifted to her ears, and she smiled, knowing she was ready to carry the legacy forward. Clara soon discovered something remarkable. The lake, with its gentle waves and calm waters, seemed to grant gifts to those who truly listened. One morning, she found a beautiful glowing stone near the shore, much like the one Ethan had discovered so many years ago. It was clear that the lake still had much to give. The villagers celebrated this new gift, not as something magical, but as a symbol of the lake's enduring power to heal. They placed the stone near the heart of the village, where it would remind them of the peace that had come after so many years of fear and sorrow. Under Clara's guidance, the lake continued to be a place of quiet reflection and healing. The villagers knew that they were living in harmony with the natural world, and the song, though quiet now, would forever be a part of their legacy. They taught their children about Isla, about forgiveness, and about the importance of finding peace within themselves. The once foreboding lake was now a place where families gathered, where friends came together, and where memories were made. It was a place of renewal, and as Clara looked at the water one last time before leaving Elmswood to start a family of her own, she knew the lake's song would echo through the generations. On the anniversary of Isla's passing, the village held a special ceremony by the lake. It was a day for remembering everything that had been lost and everything that had been gained. The villagers, young and old, gathered together to honor Isla's story and the transformation that had taken place in Elmswood. Clara stood before the lake, a single candle in her hand. As she set the candle afloat on the water, a soft melody played through the air, as if the lake was singing a song of gratitude. It was the same song Ethan had heard many years ago, a song that now represented love, hope, and the power of forgiveness. The years passed, and the lake became a symbol of peace and prosperity. The haunting song had long been replaced by a tune that was soft and nurturing, a reminder that even the darkest places could be transformed with love and understanding. People came from all over the world to visit the lake, and they left with a sense of renewal in their hearts. They spoke of the village and its legacy, of Isla's tragic tale and how it turned into a story of hope. And when they returned to their homes, they carried the memory of the lake's song with them. As the last of the original villagers passed away, the lake's song became even more peaceful, as if it were saying goodbye to its oldest friends. But the legacy of Isla and the village remained, etched into the very soil of Elmswood. Clara, now an elderly woman, returned to the lake one final time, her heart full of gratitude. She sat by the water, the gentle song filling her ears, and whispered, "Thank you." With that, she closed her eyes, knowing that the lake's story, and her own, would live on forever. Many years after Clara's passing, Elmswood remained a quiet and peaceful place. The village had grown, and new families arrived, each learning the story of Isla and the haunted lake. But one fateful day, a traveler named Thomas arrived at the village, curious about the mysterious tales he had heard. He had heard whispers of a lake that could heal broken hearts and change lives, and he decided to see it for himself. As Thomas approached the lake, a strange chill ran down his spine. He felt the presence of something ancient, something powerful. It wasn't fear, but an overwhelming sense of awe and respect for the place that had shaped the lives of so many. A moment later, the power of the water was revealed to him. Thomas stood by the lake, watching the gentle ripples of water. He had heard the song once, faint yet unmistakable, a melody that spoke of sorrow and healing, of loss and renewal. It was a sound he had never forgotten. As night fell, Thomas sat by the lake, hoping to hear the song again. To his surprise, the melody began to rise, soft and comforting. It was as if the lake itself was calling to him, offering a sense of peace that he had been searching for. He closed his eyes and listened, feeling the weight of the world lift off his shoulders. Thomas stayed in Elmswood for weeks, learning the story of Isla and the lake. He spoke to the elders, to the villagers, and discovered that the song was not just a sound, but a living memory of the land. It was the collective energy of everyone who had ever lived in Elmswood, a reminder of their trials, triumphs, and the peace they had found. One evening, as Thomas walked by the lake, he saw a young girl staring at the water. She seemed familiar, her face soft and gentle. It was as though the spirit of the lake had returned to watch over the next generation. "Are you here to listen to the song too?" Thomas asked. The girl nodded, her eyes filled with wonder. The girl, whose name was Emma, shared with Thomas her own dreams of hearing the song and understanding its meaning. She told him how she had heard it in her sleep and felt a deep connection to the lake. "I want to know the song's true purpose," she said. "Maybe it can help others like it helped the village." Together, Thomas and Emma sat by the water, waiting for the song to play once again. As the night deepened, the melody rose slowly, like a gentle whisper carried by the wind. It was more than just a sound now. It was a story of healing, of forgiveness, and of eternal love. As the song played, Emma felt something change within her. She could hear the voices of those who had come before her, their wisdom and love filling her heart. It was as though the lake itself was giving her a blessing, passing down its power to her. She knew in that moment that she was the new keeper of the song. The villagers gathered around the lake, drawn by the melody. They too felt the pull of the song, as if it were calling them to return to the place where their lives had been transformed. And when they came, they felt a profound sense of peace, knowing that the song was more than just a memory. It was alive, living in the hearts of all who believed in its power. As Emma grew older, she became the village's guiding light. She taught the younger generation about the lake, about Isla's story, and the importance of compassion and forgiveness. The song, once haunting, was now a cherished lullaby, sung not only by the lake but by the people who loved it. The lake's power continued to heal, and Elmswood thrived. The villagers learned to live in harmony with the land, using its resources wisely and respecting the spirits that had once wandered its shores. They knew that as long as the song continued to echo in the water, they would never be alone. One crisp autumn day, a group of travelers arrived in Elmswood. They had heard of the lake's song and the magic it held. As they stood by the water, the melody began to rise, welcoming them. They too felt the song's power, and they left the village with a sense of peace that stayed with them for the rest of their lives. Emma, now an elderly woman, stood at the shore, watching the travelers disappear into the distance. Emma and Lily Bobine, she smiled softly, knowing that the song would continue to bring people together, to heal and to inspire. She had fulfilled her duty as the keeper of the song, and now she was ready to pass it on to the next generation. Emma sat by the lake, her hands resting gently on her lap. The sun had set, and the water shimmered under the moonlight. For the first time in many years, the song played louder than ever before, echoing across the land. It was as if the lake was saying its final goodbye, offering one last gift to the village. As Emma closed her eyes, she heard the voices of all those who had come before her, thanking her for keeping their memory alive. With a peaceful smile, she whispered, "Thank you." And the song played one final time. The melody faded into the night, leaving behind nothing but the stillness of the water and the love that had filled the hearts of all who had listened. Happy Voyage by Lily Amelia. The years passed, and Elmswood remained a place of peace and reflection. The villagers continued to honor the song, passing it down from one generation to the next. The lake, once feared, was now revered as a symbol of hope, healing, and love. As the village grew, so did the legend of Isla and the haunted lake. Visitors came from all corners of the world, seeking the wisdom that had been passed down through the ages, and as they stood by the water, they too heard the soft melody, reminding them of the power of forgiveness and the beauty of a healed heart. In the end, the Song of the Lake became more than just a story. It became a way of life. It was the heart of Elmswood, the soul of the village, and the legacy of Isla's gift. The song would live forever, a gentle reminder that even in the darkest times, there is always a chance for peace. And so, the lake's song continued to echo through the ages, forever a part of the land, and forever a part of the people who had once heard it and found solace in its melody. Years passed, and Elmswood remained a place of peace, but change was on the horizon. One chilly evening, a stranger arrived in the village, looking weary and lost. His name was Michael, and he had heard the legend of the haunted lake and its magical song. He was a man in search of answers, drawn by the tales of its power to heal broken hearts. When he reached the lake, a strange sense of calm washed over him. It was as though the very air had shifted, and he could feel the presence of something ancient. He sat on the shore, waiting for the familiar melody to rise, hoping it would bring him the peace he so desperately needed. As night fell, Michael closed his eyes, and the song began to play. It was softer than he had imagined, a gentle, haunting melody that seemed to speak to the depths of his soul. The music was not just a sound, but a presence, a voice calling to him, offering solace in a way words could not. The more he listened, the more he felt the weight of his troubles lift. His heart, heavy with loss, began to mend as the song wove its magic. It was as though the lake knew his pain and was offering him the healing he had been searching for his entire life. The next morning, Michael found himself feeling lighter than he had in years. The song had worked its magic, helping him release the grief and sorrow that had plagued him for so long. He stood by the lake, filled with gratitude, and whispered a quiet thank you. He had heard the stories, but now he understood them. The song was not just a gift for the village. It was a gift for anyone who needed healing. Michael knew that his time in Elmswood had come to an end, but he would carry the lake's peace with him wherever he went. Before leaving, Michael spoke to the village elders about his experience. He told them how the song had healed his broken heart and gave him the strength to move forward. The elders listened intently, nodding in understanding. They had known the song's power all along, but it was always a rare and sacred gift. Michael left Elmswood with a renewed spirit. But the memory of the lake's song stayed with him. He promised to pass on the story of the haunted lake to others, so they too could feel its magic. The village, once again, had shared its gift with the world. Months passed, and life in Elmswood returned to normal. The villagers continued to live in harmony with the lake, respecting its power and its mysteries. But one fateful evening, as the sun set, a new voice joined the song. It was a voice unlike any other, stronger and clearer, as if the song itself had evolved. The villagers gathered at the lake, watching in awe as the melody resonated more deeply than ever before. It was as though the song had grown, becoming something more powerful, more eternal. The lake had not only healed, but had transformed, and its voice was now stronger than it had ever been. As the new voice filled the air, a young woman named Clara, who had grown up in Elmswood, felt something stir within her. She had always loved the lake and had listened to its song since she was a child, but now she felt an undeniable connection to it, a bond that was beyond anything she had ever experienced. Clara knew that she had been chosen to carry on the legacy of the song. The lake had gifted her with its power, and now it was her turn to share it with others. She sat by the water, listening to the song, her heart swelling with pride and purpose. The song had found its new keeper, and Elmswood would never be the same again. As Clara took her place as the guardian of the song, Elmswood began to thrive in ways it never had before. The village, once small and isolated, now attracted travelers from all over the world. People came seeking healing, peace, and solace, drawn by the legend of the lake's song. Clara welcomed them with open arms, sharing the song with anyone who needed it. She guided them to the shore, where they could hear the melody that had changed her life and the lives of so many others. The healing continued, and with each passing day the lake's magic grew stronger. Years passed, and Clara became a wise elder, known throughout the land as the keeper of the lake's song. She had taught countless generations about the power of forgiveness, love, and peace, and the lake's song had become a cherished part of Elmswood's history. As the village flourished, the song remained the heart and soul of the community. It was no longer just a legend. It was a living, breathing part of the land, passed down from one person to the next. And with each new generation, the song's message was shared, creating a lasting legacy of love and healing. One crisp autumn evening, as Clara sat by the lake, the song began to play again. This time, it was more than just a melody. It was a symphony of voices, a chorus of everyone who had ever been touched by the lake's magic. It was the collective heart of Elmswood singing together in harmony. Clara closed her eyes and listened, feeling the presence of all those who had come before her. She knew that the song would never end, that it would live on forever. She knew that the song would live on forever. The lake had given its gift to the world, and as long as the song played, its legacy would remain strong. Clara, now older and wiser, knew that her time as the keeper of the song was coming to an end. But she was not afraid. The lake had prepared her for this moment, and she understood that the song would never truly leave. It would continue to echo through the ages, passed down to future generations. As Clara took her final breath, the song played one last time, filling the village with warmth and love. It was the final blessing of the lake, a promise that the song would live forever, healing hearts and guiding souls for all eternity. And so, the story of the haunted lake continued, an eternal melody that would never fade. Many years after Clara's passing, Elmswood remained a quiet, peaceful village, and the lake continued to sing its healing song. People who visited the village often spoke of feeling an ancient presence, as if the spirit of the lake itself watched over them. It was as though the song had become a part of the land, echoing the wisdom of those who had lived and loved there. The villagers believed that the spirit of Clara still lingered by the lake, guiding the song and ensuring its power would never fade. They passed down stories of her kindness and wisdom, remembering the days when the lake had healed so many hearts. And with every passing year, the legend of the haunted lake grew stronger. One cold winter's night, a young woman named Sophie, with a heart full of sorrow, wandered into Elmswood. She had heard the tales of the haunted lake and its powerful song, and her broken heart yearned for the peace it promised. She had lost her way in life, and all she sought was healing from the weight of her grief. Sophie stood at the edge of the lake, her eyes fixed on the still water. She could feel the energy of the place as though it was calling her, urging her to listen, and so she closed her eyes, waiting for the song to begin. When it did, Sophie felt an overwhelming wave of peace rush through her, as if the lake had accepted her pain and was beginning to ease it away. The melody that rose from the lake was familiar to Sophie, yet it felt new, as if it was speaking directly to her. The soft, haunting tune wrapped around her heart, slowly healing the wounds she had carried for so long. With every note, the darkness that had once clouded her mind began to fade, replaced by a lightness she had never known. For the first time in years, Sophie felt hope stir within her. The lake's song was not just a lullaby. It was a balm for her soul, offering a path toward healing that she had almost given up on. She knew that this was the beginning of a new chapter in her life, one where the past no longer had control over her. Never look back. As Sophie continued to listen, the song grew louder, filling her senses with a peace she had never thought possible. It was as if the very voice of the lake was speaking to her, telling her she was not alone, that the pain she had carried for so long could finally be released. The melody wrapped itself around her like a protective shield, keeping the world's troubles at bay. Sophie felt herself being embraced by the lake's gentle spirit, and for the first time in ages, she smiled. She had come seeking peace, and the lake had offered it to her without question. As the night drew on, Sophie promised herself that she would never forget the gift the lake had given her. She would carry its healing song with her always, no matter where life took her. The memories of this night would be her guide, reminding her that even in the darkest of times, there was always light to be found. When the song faded and the moon rose high in the sky, Sophie slowly stood up, feeling a sense of renewal. She had arrived at the lake broken, but she was leaving it whole. She whispered a final thank you to the waters and turned back toward the village, knowing that she would return again one day. Months passed, and Sophie returned to Elmswood, having found new purpose in life. She had gone through a personal transformation, guided by the song that had healed her. As the village welcomed her back, Sophie felt a deep connection to the lake that she could not ignore. She knew that, like Clara before her, she had been chosen to carry the song's legacy. Sophie spent her days by the lake, learning to listen more closely to the music that flowed from its depths. The villagers would come to her for guidance, seeking the peace that she had found. She shared her story, encouraging others to open their hearts to the song, knowing it could heal them as it had healed her. One evening, as Sophie sat by the water, she felt the presence of Clara's spirit. It was faint, but there was no mistaking it. The lake had chosen her to be its next keeper. The song had passed through generations, and now it was her turn to ensure that it continued to heal those in need. Sophie closed her eyes and listened, feeling Clara's spirit fill the air with love and warmth. The music was no longer just a song to her. It was a living, breathing part of her. She could feel the rhythm in her heart, the melody in her soul. The lake had become a part of her very being, and she knew it was her responsibility to protect it, to honor the gift it had given her. As the years passed, Sophie became a wise woman, revered by all who came to Elmswood. The song of the haunted lake continued to echo through the village, its melody always changing, always growing. It had become a symbol of hope, peace, and healing, drawing people from all corners of the world. Sophie's heart swelled with pride as she watched the song's legacy spread beyond the village. The magic of the lake had touched so many lives, and she knew that it would continue to do so for generations to come. She had found her purpose, and with it, a deep sense of fulfillment that only the lake could provide. As Elmswood flourished, the lake remained at its heart, its song a constant presence. The villagers had built their lives around it, and every day they felt its presence in everything they did. The lake had become more than just a place. It was the soul of the village, the thread that connected everyone and everything together. Sophie stood by the shore, watching as the sun set over the water. The song was playing softly in the background, and she knew that, no matter what happened, the lake would continue to sing, always offering its healing power to those who needed it most. As the years turned to decades, Elmswood remained unchanged. The village was still small, still peaceful, and the lake song continued to heal, to grow, and to evolve. Sophie, now an elder, had passed on her role to the next keeper, but she knew that her work had been done. The song would live on forever, its legacy carried by each new generation. The lake had become an eternal symbol of love, healing, and peace. It was a gift to the world, a reminder that no matter how lost or broken one might feel, there was always a place where the heart could find rest. And as long as the song played, Elmswood would remain a place of magic, peace, and eternal healing. Years after Sophie passed on the role of the lake's keeper, the villagers continued to honor the traditions she had set in place. The song of the haunted lake had taken on a new life, becoming a part of the very spirit of the village. Each year, the villagers would gather at the lake, paying tribute to the peace it brought them. The song's melody shifted slightly over the years, adapting to the changes in the world around it. But no matter how much the world changed, the song remained a constant, a reminder that no matter how lost one felt, there was always hope. The lake's song had become timeless, never fading, always offering its comfort. One bright spring morning, a young man named Thomas arrived in Elmswood. He had heard stories of the haunted lake and its magical song, and he came seeking solace for the pain he carried deep within him. Thomas had recently lost his family, and the grief he felt weighed heavily on him. He stood by the lake, gazing into its depth, feeling an undeniable pull. It was as if the water was calling him, beckoning him to listen. As he closed his eyes, the song began to play softly in the distance, and Tomas could feel the weight of his sorrow slowly start to lift. The lake was inviting him to heal, just as it had for so many others before him. As Thomas listened to the song, he felt a warmth spread through him, and for the first time since his loss, he felt a flicker of hope. The melody was soft and soothing, wrapping itself around his heart, and he realized that he no longer felt alone. It was as though the lake had become his companion, gently guiding him through the pain. He stayed by the water for hours, allowing the song to wash over him, until the tears that had been held back for so long finally began to fall. With each drop of his grief, he felt lighter, more at peace. The lake had healed him, just as it had healed so many others. As the days passed, Thomas returned to the lake, each visit bringing him closer to the peace he had sought for so long. The song of the haunted lake had become more than just music. It had become a language of the heart, speaking directly to his soul. Thomas now understood that the lake's power wasn't just in its melody. It was in its ability to help one connect with their own emotions and find the strength to heal. He spent more time reflecting on his life and the people he had lost. But instead of feeling consumed by grief, he now felt a sense of gratitude for the memories they had left behind. The song of the lake had opened his heart, allowing him to find peace, not in forgetting, but in embracing the love that had once been. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Thomas sat quietly by the water, watching the reflection of the moon shimmer on the surface. The lake's song had filled the air, and he felt a deep sense of calm settle over him. He knew that the healing journey he had begun was not something that would end quickly, but he also understood that he was no longer walking it alone. The village elders had noticed Thomas's transformation and welcomed him into their fold, encouraging him to share his story with others. The song had brought him peace, and now he wanted to help others find that same peace. It was time for him to become a part of the legacy of the haunted lake, ensuring that its song would continue to heal for generations to come. As the seasons passed, Thomas found himself more and more drawn to the lake. He felt a deep connection to it, and he began to take on the role of guide, helping others who came seeking the same solace he had once needed. It was clear to him now that the lake's song had a purpose beyond healing. Its true power was in its ability to guide souls toward their own inner strength. Thomas would sit by the water, listening to the song, and when someone new arrived, he would invite them to join him. Together they would listen, letting the melody wash over them. He knew the lake had chosen him, just as it had chosen Clara and Sophie before him. He was now the keeper of the song, entrusted with continuing its legacy. With each passing year, the lake's song evolved. It was as if the melody was adapting to the needs of each generation. The villagers began to notice that the song's rhythm had changed slightly, becoming more energetic and uplifting. It was as if the lake was not just healing, but inspiring those who listened to it. As Thomas took his place by the lake, he realized that the song was not just a tool for healing. It was also a source of creativity and strength. Those who listened to it not only healed, but they found new inspiration in their lives. The lake had become a catalyst for personal growth, encouraging the people of Elmswood to pursue their dreams and passions. News of the haunted lake and its healing song spread far and wide. People from distant lands traveled to Elmswood, hoping to experience the same peace and comfort that Thomas and many others had found. The song had become a symbol of hope, drawing people in from all walks of life. With each new arrival, the song seemed to grow stronger, as if it was drawing energy from the collective healing taking place. The village flourished as more and more people came, and the song echoed across the waters, a constant reminder that no matter how lost one might feel, there was always a way back to peace. As the years turned into decades, Elmswood became a beacon of hope for all who sought healing. The song of the haunted lake had transformed not just individuals, but the village itself. The once small, quiet village had become a thriving community, united by the power of the lake and its melody. The villagers took great pride in their heritage, passing down the stories of Clara, Sophie, and Thomas to each new generation. They knew that the song was not just a part of their history, it was a part of their future, a gift that would continue to heal and inspire for centuries to come. As the years went on, the song of the haunted lake never faded. It remained a constant, timeless presence, forever entwined with the fabric of Elmswood. The villagers knew that as long as the lake continued to sing, the healing and inspiration it brought would never cease. And so, the song played on, echoing through the hearts of all who heard it. It was a melody of peace, of healing, and of hope. A song that would never end, its legacy living on through every person who found solace in its notes. The haunted lake had become eternal, its song forever bound to the land, to the village, and to the hearts of those who sought its magic. In crisp autumn evening, as the moonlight danced on the surface of the lake, a revelation came to the people of Elmswood. The song, which had always been a source of peace, began to take on a new form. The villagers could hear whispers in the melody, soft, delicate voices that seemed to speak directly to their hearts. Thomas stood by the water listening closely. He realized the voices were not separate from the song but part of it, guiding him toward a deeper understanding of the lake's power. The voices whispered of the past, of the keepers before him, and the role they had played in preserving the song's magic. It was a message passed down through generations, revealing the true nature of the song, eternal and unbroken. As the moon continued to shine brightly, Thomas felt a weight settle on his shoulders. The revelation came with a sense of responsibility. The role of the keeper was not just to protect the song, but to understand it. He was now part of an unbroken chain, a lineage of keepers whose duty was to ensure the song never faded. But this responsibility came with a sacrifice. The more Thomas learned about the song, the more he understood the delicate balance between healing and loss. The song could only continue as long as the keeper remained connected to the lake, and it required a deep bond with the land. Thomas knew that he could never leave Elmswood, for as long as he did, the song would fade. As the seasons passed, Thomas began to notice something unsettling. Despite his efforts to keep the song pure, certain parts of the melody seemed to grow fainter. There were notes that felt distant, as if they were slipping away. He tried to play his part, sitting by the lake and listening for any change, but the fading song left him worried. The villagers, too, began to notice the difference. Though they still found peace in the song, there was a lingering sadness in the air. It was as though the lake was beginning to withdraw, pulling back its magic. Thomas feared that the time had come for the song to end, something that had never happened in the long history of the lake. J.R. glanced around the large room before answering. Determined to restore the song to its full strength, Thomas spent every day by the water, meditating and listening. One day, while sitting by the shore, he heard a new sound, a quiet hum beneath the song. It was faint at first, but it grew louder, merging with the existing melody. The new sound was not a threat to the song, but rather an addition, a new harmony that could strengthen what had been fading. Thomas realized then that the song was not meant to stay the same forever. It could evolve, adapt, and grow stronger, but it needed to be nurtured with the right balance. It was the keeper's job to listen and respond, to guide the song in its new direction. With this realization, Thomas felt a renewed sense of hope. He knew that the song would never truly end. It would simply change with the times, just as the villagers did. As word of the changes in the song spread, a new group of travelers began to arrive at Elmswood. They had heard the whispers of a song that could heal and guide, and they came seeking answers. Thomas welcomed them, for he knew that the song was not just for the villagers, it was for anyone who needed it. That night, as the lake glistened under the stars, the villagers and travelers gathered by the water. The song began to play again, but this time it was different. The melody was fuller, richer, and it seemed to encompass everyone who stood there. It was as if the lake was embracing them all, wrapping them in a cocoon of warmth and peace. The song had returned, not just as a healing force, but as a unifying one. Over time, the village of Elmswood continued to thrive. The song of the haunted lake was now a central part of their lives, a force that brought them together and helped them face the challenges of the world. Thomas, now an elder, continued his role as keeper, guiding the next generation of villagers to understand the importance of the song. But he also began to teach them a new lesson. The song was not just about healing. It was about connection. The lake's magic was in its ability to bring people together, to remind them of their shared humanity. Whether through grief or joy, the song provided a bridge between hearts, a way to understand one another. Thomas knew that this was the true gift of the haunted lake. As the years went on, the song of the haunted lake became a part of Elmswood's identity. The villagers no longer saw it as a mere legend, but as a living, breathing force that was deeply intertwined with their lives. The lake's song echoed through their homes, their fields, and their hearts. Thomas, now an old man, often sat by the shore, listening to the song. He could hear the echoes of the past, the voices of the keepers who had come before him. It was as if they were still there, watching over him, guiding him. And in those moments, he knew that the song would never truly end. It would continue for as long as the village existed. One evening, as the sunset painted the sky in shades of gold and pink, Thomas felt his time had come. He had fulfilled his duty as the keeper, and now it was time for the next generation to take over. He stood by the water, feeling the song swell around him, and he whispered a final prayer of thanks. The villagers gathered around him, and as they did, the song played one last time, richer and more beautiful than ever before. Thomas knew that the song would continue, that it would live on through the hearts of the people who had come to understand its magic. And as he closed his eyes for the final time, the song carried him away into the peaceful embrace of the lake. After Thomas's passing, a new keeper was chosen, and the legacy of the haunted lake continued. The song, now timeless, resonated with every new generation, adapting to their needs and growing stronger with each passing year. The villagers of Elmswood knew that, as long as they respected the song and its magic, it would always be there to guide them. The lake had become more than a place of healing. It was now a symbol of unity, of understanding, and of the interconnectedness of all who heard its melody. Each person who came to Elmswood left with a piece of the song in their hearts, knowing that it would guide them just as it had guided so many others. The song of the haunted lake never faded. It lived on through the generations, a constant reminder that healing was possible, that hope was always within reach. As long as the lake stood, its song would continue to play, and those who sought its magic would find peace and connection. And so, the song of the haunted lake echoed through the ages, a melody of timeless beauty, forever imprinted in the hearts of those who listen. It was the heart of Elmswood, its lifeblood, and its eternal legacy. The song would never end, for it was not just a melody, it was the very essence of life itself. Years passed, and Elmswood flourished as the lake song continued to fill the hearts of the people. However, as time moved on, there were whispers of a strange silence that began to spread. Some said they could no longer hear the song in the quiet of the night. The village elders grew concerned, wondering if the song was beginning to fade once again. One evening, a storm rolled in, darkening the skies and rattling the windows of the village. The winds howled, and the rain poured down in sheets. But amidst the chaos, the song remained silent. The people of Elmswood gathered by the lake, anxious to hear the melody that had always guided them. Yet, there was nothing, only the sound of the storm. Determined to find out what had happened, a young girl named Lily, the granddaughter of the current keeper, ventured to the shore. She had heard stories of the song and knew that it had always been a force for good. But now, it was gone. With her heart heavy, Lily stood at the edge of the water and called out, hoping for a sign. To her surprise, she heard a faint whisper. Soft, distant, but unmistakable. It was the song, faint as it was. Lily knelt by the lake, listening closely as the melody slowly began to return. The song was still there, but it had changed. It no longer echoed with the same familiar rhythm. It was slower, more deliberate, as if it had taken on a new form. The following night, as Lily continued her visits to the lake, she began to hear the song more clearly. The melody had transformed into something deeper, more solemn. It carried a weight of sorrow, as though the lake had experienced something it had never faced before. Lily understood that the song had been altered by the very nature of the world around it. The people of Elmswood had changed, and the lake had adapted. When the song ran out, it no longer just offered healing, it now carried a message of reflection and renewal. Lily felt a deep connection to the song and knew that it was her responsibility to understand and protect it, just as her grandfather had done. As the days turned into weeks, Lily's bond with the lake deepened. She spent hours by its shores, listening to the song as it grew stronger, yet more complex. It spoke of the cycles of life, the struggles of the past, and the promise of a new beginning. It was no longer just a melody, it was a story, a living entity that required understanding and care. Lily felt the weight of her new role as the keeper of the song. It was not enough to simply protect the song. She had to interpret its meaning, share its lessons, and ensure that it continued to evolve. She began to study the lake, the land around it, and the history of Elmswood, seeking to understand the deeper message behind the song's transformation. One night, as Lily sat by the water, the song seemed to speak directly to her. She heard words within the melody, words that were not part of the song before. They were faint, like whispers carried by the wind, but they were there, guiding her toward something new. The song was showing her the way forward, urging her to step into the future with courage. Lily realized that the song was no longer just a reminder of the past. It was a vision of what was to come. The lake had always been a place of healing, but now it was a place of guidance, offering a path toward a brighter future. Lily understood that she had to share this new message with the people of Elmswood. They had to learn to adapt, to embrace change, and to look toward the future with hope. Lily called a meeting of the village elders to share what she had learned. The villagers were wary at first, for they had always relied on the song as a source of comfort, and the changes felt unsettling. But as Lily spoke, they began to understand. The song was evolving just as they had, and it was offering them a chance to grow. The elders, though reluctant, saw the wisdom in Lily's words. They realized that the song had always been a part of their lives, and it would continue to be, but it was no longer just a passive force. It was a dynamic part of the village's future. The elders agreed to help Lily spread the song's new message, hoping it would lead Elmswood toward a brighter tomorrow. As the villagers embraced the changes, the song began to take on an even deeper meaning. It no longer carried just a message of healing. It now offered blessings, guiding the people toward understanding and peace. The song was a reminder that life was a journey, one that was ever-changing and full of new possibilities. Lily continued to listen to the song, understanding that it would always evolve. She no longer feared its changes. Instead, she embraced them. With each new verse, she learned something new about herself, her people, and the world around her. The song had become her guide, and through it, she could see a future filled with hope and promise. As the years passed, the song became a part of daily life in Elmswood. It echoed through the village, carried on the breeze, and resonated in the hearts of all who heard it. The villagers no longer feared its changing melody. They understood that it was a symbol of their connection to the land and each other. Lily, now a wise elder, looked upon the village with pride. The song had brought them together, teaching them lessons of change, resilience, and hope. It was a reminder that even in times of uncertainty, there was always something beautiful to hold on to. And as long as the song played, Elmswood would thrive. As the sun set over the lake, Lily stood by the shore, listening to the song one last time. She felt the melody wrap around her, a soft, comforting presence. She knew that the song would continue long after she was gone. It had become a part of the earth, the wind, and the water. It was eternal. Lily smiled, content in the knowledge that the song had fulfilled its purpose. It had brought peace, healing, and guidance to the village. And though it had changed, it had always remained the same at its core, a reminder of the beauty and power of life's journey. And so, the legacy of the haunted lake lived on, passed down through generations. The song, now more than just a melody, was a symbol of resilience and connection. It echoed through the hearts of the people, binding them together in a shared story that would never be forgotten. As long as the lake stood, the song would continue to play, evolving with the times, yet always reminding the people of Elmswood of their place in the world. It was a song of life, a song of the future, and a song that would echo forever. Years passed, and the people of Elmswood lived in harmony, guided by the wisdom of the song. But one cold winter evening, the song grew faint. It was as if the lake was quieting down, its once vibrant melody slowly fading away. The villagers, who had come to depend on its sound, felt a deep sense of unease. Lily, now old and wise, made her way to the lake once again. She knelt beside the water, listening for any sign of the melody that had sustained them all these years. It was then that she heard it, soft at first, like a whisper on the breeze, and then louder, clearer. The song had returned, but with a new tone, a sense of finality that carried with it a message. The song no longer carried the same sweetness it once had. It was now deep and somber, full of meaning and mystery. It was as though the lake had one last lesson to teach the people of Elmswood. Lily listened closely, feeling a sense of both awe and sorrow. The song spoke of endings, of times that had passed, and of the importance of cherishing the moments that remained. It reminded Lily of her own journey and of the many lives the song had touched. She knew that the lake, in its infinite wisdom, had something important to say before the song faded forever. As the days passed, the song grew quieter. The villagers continued with their lives, but a sense of loss hung in the air. They had always relied on the song, and now it seemed as though the lake was preparing to let go of its melody. Lily shared with the elders that the song's fading was not a loss, but a sign of something new beginning. The people of Elmswood gathered one last time by the lake, not in sadness, but in gratitude. They understood that the song had been a gift, one that had taught them to love, to grow, and to change, Now it was time to let go and carry the lessons forward. One cold night, as Lily sat alone by the water, she reflected on the life she had lived. The lake had taught her so much about love, life, and the cycles of nature. The song had been her constant companion, guiding her through the ups and downs of life. Now, with its final notes echoing in the air, Lily felt at peace. The melody, though fading, had filled her heart with warmth. She knew that the song would never truly leave. Its lessons would remain in the hearts of those who had heard it, continuing to guide them long after it had stopped playing. As the lake fell silent, the winds began to carry a new sound. A soft, gentle whisper that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. It was as if the song had been reborn, not in the form of music, but in the breeze that now swept through Elmswood. The people no longer gathered by the lake to hear the song, but they felt its presence in the wind. Lily smiled, understanding that the lake had not disappeared. It had merely transformed. The song, though no longer a melody, would live on in the air, the trees, and the hearts of the villagers. It was a part of them now, woven into the fabric of their lives. Many years later, Elmswood became a place of pilgrimage for those seeking wisdom and peace. People from distant lands would travel to the lake not to hear the song, but to experience the legacy it had left behind. The wind still whispered through the trees, carrying with it the lessons of the past. The villagers had long since passed, but their descendants continued to honor the song's memory. They knew that the true meaning of the song was not in its notes, but in the way it had changed them, teaching them to embrace change, to cherish the moments, and to live with love and understanding. Unplugged. One spring day, a child named Clara, new to Elmswood, stood by the lake. She had heard stories of the song, and though it had long since faded, she felt its presence in the air. Clara, with her pure heart and open mind, could sense the magic that still lingered. She knelt by the water, closed her eyes, and whispered a quiet song of her own. To her surprise, the winds began to stir, and the air seemed to hum with life. Clara smiled, knowing that the song was not gone. It had simply passed to the next generation. She stood up, feeling the connection between the past and the future, and knew that the cycle would continue. As the years passed, Clara grew into a wise young woman, and she became the keeper of the lake's legacy. Though the song no longer played in the traditional way, Clara continued to teach the villagers the lessons it had imparted. She reminded them that change was inevitable, but that every ending was simply a new beginning. The people of Elmswood came to understand that the song was eternal, not in its form, but in its message. They passed it down from generation to generation, adapting it to their own lives, but always keeping its core wisdom intact. One evening, as Clara sat by the lake, she felt the song's presence one last time. It was as if the lake was telling her it was time to pass on its message. The winds carried the final notes of the song, and Clara understood that her role as the keeper was complete. The legacy was no longer just hers. It belonged to everyone. She smiled, feeling peace settle over her heart. The song had done its work. It had shaped Elmswood into a place of wisdom, love, and growth. Now, it was time to let the people carry it forward. Clara rose and walked away from the lake, knowing that the song would never truly end. And so the midnight song of the haunted lake continued to live on in the hearts of the people. Though it no longer echoed across the waters, it was alive in the whispers of the wind, in the rustling of the leaves, and in the stories passed down through generations. The song had become a part of Elmswood, a part of the world itself. As long as there were hearts open to listen, the song would never truly fade. It was eternal, woven into the very fabric of life, teaching all who heard it that change was constant, but love, hope, and wisdom would always remain. Years passed in Elmswood, and though the song of the lake had long faded, its memory was alive in the hearts of the villagers. Clara had children of her own now, and she often told them the story of the midnight song. She spoke of its magic, its lessons, and the way it had shaped their village. One night, as Clara sat by the window, she heard a familiar sound, a soft melody carried by the wind. She rose from her seat, her heart racing. It was the song. Though it had been silent for many years, it was returning. She walked to the lake, eager to hear its voice once again. The song grew louder as Clara reached the water's edge. The winds swirled around her, and the moonlight danced across the lake's surface. It was as though the lake had waited for her, for the one who had kept its legacy alive. The first notes of the song filled the air, gentle and full of grace. Clara closed her eyes, letting the melody wash over her. She felt the same warmth and peace she had felt as a child. The song had not changed. It was still the same, with its timeless wisdom and love. She knew that this moment was a gift, and that the song had returned to remind her of the journey she had taken. As Clara listened, she realized that the song now held a new meaning. It was no longer just a melody of wisdom, but a song of renewal and hope. The world around her had changed, and so too had the song. It had adapted, just as she had. The lesson it carried now was one of resilience, of finding strength in the face of adversity. The song seemed to tell her that even in the darkest times, there was always a light to guide the way. The world had gone through many challenges, but it was still turning, still growing. Clara knew that the song was telling her to continue, to keep moving forward with hope and love. Clara gathered her children and brought them to the lake, eager to share the song with them. As they sat by the water, the melody reached their ears, filling them with wonder. They listened intently, feeling the magic of the song as it wrapped around them. Clara smiled, knowing that the song would live on in them, just as it had in her. Her children asked her questions about the song, about the lake, and about the magic it held. Clara told them everything she knew, passing on the legacy of the song. She knew that one day they too would share it with their children. The circle of the song would continue, growing stronger with each generation. The years went by, and Elmswood continued to thrive. The song, though no longer heard every night, remained a part of the village's spirit. People still gathered by the lake from time to time, hoping to hear its melody, but even in its absence, its presence was felt. Clara grew older, and her children took on the responsibility of sharing the song's lessons. They spoke of change and resilience, of love and loss, and of the eternal nature of the song. They told their children that the song was not just a melody, but a way of life. It was about finding peace in the midst of change, and about carrying the lessons of the past into the future. One quiet evening, as the sun set over the lake, Clara sat alone by the water. The song had not been heard for many months, but Clara felt its presence all the same. It was in the rustling of the leaves, in the gentle breeze that caressed her face, and in the memories of all the people who had heard it before. She closed her eyes, feeling the calm of the evening settle around her. The lake was at peace, and so was she. Clara knew that the song had done its work. It had touched the lives of so many, and now it was time to let it rest. But she also knew that it would never truly disappear. The song was a part of her, and it would live on in her heart forever. As the years passed, the song of the lake was heard only in dreams. It had woven its way into the hearts of the people, and now it rested in the quiet corners of their lives. Clara's children grew up and moved on, each carrying a piece of the song with them. It was no longer just a melody, but a memory, a symbol of all that the song had taught them. One night, as Clara lay in bed, she heard the faintest whisper, a final note of the song. She smiled, knowing that it was a gift, a reminder that the song had not ended. It had simply transformed, becoming part of everything that had come after it. The song may have faded from the lake, but its legacy lived on in the village of Elmswood. The people continued to thrive, guided by the lessons the song had taught them. They lived with love, kindness, and resilience, and passed these values down to their children. Clara, now an old woman, knew that the song would never be forgotten. It had changed her life, and it had changed the lives of everyone who had heard it. The lake might no longer sing, but its lessons would live on, carried by those who believed in the magic of the midnight song. As the years went by, the village of Elmswood became known as a place of peace and wisdom. The lake, though silent, still held a special place in the hearts of all who lived there. People came from far and wide, not to hear the song, but to experience the tranquility that the lake and the village offered. The song had become something more than just a melody. It had become a part of the village's soul. The people no longer needed to hear it to know it was there. They carried its message within them, living their lives with the wisdom of the song guiding them in every step. And so, the midnight song of the haunted lake continued to live on, not as a melody, but as a legacy. It was in the hearts of the villagers, in the way they lived, in the way they loved and cared for one another. It was a song that would never truly end because it had become a part of the world itself. No matter how many years passed, the song would always be there, woven into the fabric of time, whispering its lessons to those who listened with open hearts. It was eternal, a reminder that love, hope, and resilience would always find their way, even in the darkest of times. Years had passed since Clara's last night by the lake, but her story remained a treasured memory. The village of Elmswood continued to grow, its peaceful atmosphere drawing visitors from distant lands. Many came to learn about the lake and the magic it held, eager to hear the story of the song. Some visitors came seeking answers, others simply looking for peace. Though they never heard the song, they felt its presence in the air, in the way the villagers spoke of it. The song, though no longer sung aloud, had become a part of the village's spirit, a whisper in the breeze that carried with it the hope of new beginnings. As the years passed, Elmswood transformed into a hub for those seeking solace. The lake, now quiet, became a place of reflection, where people sat in silence, waiting for the song to speak to them in its own way. No longer was it just a melody of old, it had become a symbol of everything the village stood for: unity, resilience, and peace. The younger generation, inspired by Clara's tales, continued the tradition of honoring the song. Though they no longer heard its notes, they understood its deeper meaning. They knew that the song was not just about sound. It was about the lessons it imparted, about living a life filled with kindness and understanding. One evening, as dusk fell over the village, a newcomer arrived in Elmswood. His name was Thomas, a traveler who had heard rumors of the lake and its mysterious song. He arrived alone, seeking answers to questions that had lingered in his mind for years. He was drawn to the village by its quiet charm and the stories that surrounded it. Thomas made his way to the lake, standing at its edge and gazing out over the still water. He had heard the stories, but he did not expect to hear the song. He understood that the song was no longer something that could be heard. It was something that had to be felt. And as he stood there, he felt its presence, gentle and enduring, watching over him. Over the next few days, Thomas stayed in the village, learning about its history and its people. He spoke with the elders, listened to their stories, and spent time by the lake. Though the song never played for him, he began to feel a deep connection to the place. There was something about Elmswood that made him feel at peace, as though the very air around him was filled with the wisdom of the lake. One evening, as he sat by the water, a voice in his heart whispered, "You are not alone." It was a simple message, but one that resonated deeply within him. The lake, the village, and the song were all connected, and Thomas now understood that the song was not just a sound. It was the love and strength of the community, passed down through generations. As the days went by, a storm began to brew in the distance. Dark clouds gathered over the lake and the wind picked up, carrying with it an eerie feeling. The villagers went about their preparations, but Thomas felt a sense of foreboding. He had heard the legends of storms that brought the song back, but he had never believed them until now. That night, as the storm approached, Thomas stood by the water, watching the darkened sky. Listening to the scream of the wet rain gathering in the distance, he looked back to the storm. The air was thick with tension, and the waves of the lake seemed to stir with an energy that he had never felt before. The song, he thought, was close, closer than it had been in years. He could almost hear the first notes of the melody, but they were still just out of reach. The storm raged through the night, lightning flashing across the sky and thunder echoing over the lake. But as the clock struck midnight, something incredible happened. The winds calmed, the rain stopped, and a soft, haunting melody began to play. It was the song, the same one that had captivated so many before. Tomas stood in awe as the song filled the air, its notes floating on the wind like a whisper from another time. The village, though surrounded by the storm, felt peaceful and still. The song seemed to calm the tempest, turning it into something beautiful. The lake, the storm, and the song were all intertwined, creating a moment of magic that only Elmswood could hold. The next morning, after the storm had passed, Thomas gathered with the villagers to talk about what had happened. He shared his experience, telling them how he had felt the song return and how it had transformed the storm into something wondrous. The villagers listened with rapt attention, and many of them smiled, for they knew that the song had returned in its own time. The elders spoke of how the song would return when the village needed it most, during times of great change, during moments of uncertainty. It was a reminder that the song, like the village itself, was eternal. Thomas felt a deep sense of gratitude. He had come to Elmswood searching for answers, but he had found something far more profound, a connection to something timeless. As time went on, Thomas became a part of the village. He helped share the story of the song with others, spreading its message of hope and resilience. The song, though heard less often, continued to be a part of the village's spirit. It was passed down through generations, and its lessons were carried in the hearts of all who lived in Elmswood. The villagers understood that the song was not just a melody, it was a gift, a reminder of all that they had overcome and all that they would continue to face. It was a song of unity, of peace, and of love. And though it was not heard every night, it was always there, guiding the people of Elmswood through every season of their lives. Years passed, and though the song was no longer heard as frequently, it was still felt in the very fabric of Elmswood. The lake remained calm, its waters reflecting the beauty of the village and its people. Visitors came and went, but the song remained in their hearts long after they had left. One quiet evening, as the wind blew through the trees, a child stood by the lake and listened. The faintest melody drifted on the breeze, so soft that it seemed almost like a dream. It was the song, now a part of the very air they breathed. The child smiled, knowing that the magic of the song would live on, even in the smallest of whispers. Clara, now an old woman, sat by the window, watching the sunset over the lake. She had lived a full life, and the village had flourished in the years since the song first touched their lives. She knew that her time was coming to an end, but she felt no fear. The song had taught her that life was a cycle, and that every end was simply a new beginning. As she closed her eyes for the final time, Clara heard the faintest echo of the song, a soft, final note. It was a gift, a reminder that the song would live on in the hearts of all who had heard it. And as the wind carried the melody over the lake, the village of Elmswood remained, forever touched by the midnight song. As the years passed, Elmswood continued to thrive, its people carrying the wisdom of the song in their hearts. The lake, though now quiet, remained a symbol of the village's strength. Every visitor who came to Elmswood heard the story of the midnight song and left with a piece of its magic. The song had become more than just a melody. It was a legacy, a reminder that no matter what challenges life brought, there was always something beautiful to hold on to. The song had given the village hope, and that hope had endured, carried from one generation to the next. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, a group of children sat by the lake. They had heard the stories of the song and wanted to see if they could hear it for themselves. They sang softly, their voices mingling with the whispers of the wind. Though the song did not return in its full glory, the children felt a peace they had never known. It was as if the song was with them, not in the air, but within their hearts. They played and laughed, their joy spreading across the village, and in that moment, the villagers knew that the song would never truly leave, because it lived in the hearts of all who believed in its magic. One stormy night, when the clouds hung heavy over the village, an old traveler arrived in Elmswood. His name was Elias, and he had heard of the lake and its song from a friend who had once visited. He came seeking answers, but as he walked to the lake, he realized he was not looking for the melody. Instead, he was searching for the peace that the village had found through the song. Standing at the edge of the water, Elias felt something shift within him. It wasn't the song he had expected, but the stillness of the lake spoke to him in a way he couldn't explain. The winds began to stir, and he knew that he was not alone. The song had found him, not through sound, but through the quiet understanding that sometimes silence speaks louder than any note. As time passed, the seasons in Elmswood began to change. Spring brought new life, summer filled the air with warmth, and autumn painted the trees in vibrant colors. But it was winter that held the deepest magic. On the coldest nights, when the world was blanketed in snow, the lake seemed to glow with an ethereal light. It was during these nights that the villagers would gather by the lake, telling stories of the song and the lessons it had taught them. The snow would fall softly, covering the ground, and in the silence of the winter night, they could almost hear the faintest echo of the melody carried by the wind. Years after Clara's passing, the village had grown, and the song had become a part of its identity. One fateful night, when the moon hung high and the wind was calm, the song returned. It was soft at first, like a whisper in the night, but soon it grew louder, echoing across the village. The villagers gathered by the lake, listening to the melody that had been missing for so long. It was as if the song had come home, bringing with it the memories of all who had heard it before. The magic of the song was alive once more, a reminder that no matter how much time passed, its power would always remain. The return of the song marked a new chapter for Elmswood. The villagers celebrated, not just for the melody that had returned, but for the strength and unity they had built over the years. They danced and sang, their hearts filled with joy, knowing that the song was a part of them forever. The children who had once listened to the stories now sang the song with their own voices, passing it down to the next generation. And as the music filled the air, the village felt alive with a sense of peace and belonging, knowing that the song would never truly fade away. Anonymously titled, as the years went by, the song continued to play in the hearts of all who lived in Elmswood. The lake, still as beautiful as ever, reflected the light of the moon, its waters shimmering with the memories of the past. The village had changed, but the song remained constant, a reminder of everything they had endured and everything they had become. Though the song was no longer heard every night, it was always there, carried in the whispers of the wind, in the rustle of the leaves, in the quiet moments when the world seemed still. And the people of Elmswood knew that as long as they remembered the song, it would never truly end. One evening, as the sun set behind the mountains, a group of travelers passed through Elmswood. They had heard the stories of the haunted lake and its song, but they were skeptical. As they stood by the water, they felt the air grow still, the wind carrying with it a faint melody. The travelers listened, their doubts fading away as they heard the song. It was soft, but it was there, carried on the breeze like a secret passed from one generation to the next. They understood then that the song was not bound by time. It existed beyond the constraints of years and seasons, a melody that lived forever in the hearts of those who believed in its magic. Though the song was no longer heard as frequently, those who still visited the lake could feel its presence. The villagers had learned that the song was not just a sound, but a message that carried with it the wisdom of the ages. It spoke of love, unity, and the power of believing in something greater than oneself. The lake, with its still waters and quiet beauty, held the secret of the song. It was a secret that only those who truly listened could understand. And as the years went by, the song became less about the notes and more about the meaning it carried. Its power to heal, to bring people together, and to remind them of the magic that still existed in the world. Clara's story, though filled with sorrow and loss, had become a part of the village's legacy. The song had returned, bringing with it a sense of peace and closure. The village had changed, but the lessons of the song remained. As the sun set on another day, the village of Elmswood stood united, forever touched by the midnight song. And so, the story of the haunted lake came to an end, at least for now. But in the hearts of the villagers, the song would never fade. It would live on, passed down through the generations, a melody of hope and unity that would never truly end. As time passed, Elmswood became a place of pilgrimage. People from distant lands arrived to witness the magic of the lake and hear the fabled song. Although the melody was not always audible, the peace it brought was felt by all who stood by the water. The villagers had learned to live in harmony with the song's memory. They no longer waited for it to appear, but had embraced the silence and the lessons it carried. The legacy of the song had transformed their lives, teaching them that sometimes the greatest beauty lies in stillness. One evening, under the light of a full moon, a young woman named Mira arrived in Elmswood. She had heard the stories of the lake's song and was eager to hear it for herself. She sat at the water's edge, her heart filled with anticipation. The wind began to stir, and soon the faintest of melodies drifted through the air. It was as if the song had waited for Mira. She closed her eyes and listened, feeling the weight of the song's history. It was not just the melody that filled the air, but the whispers of all who had ever believed in its magic. On the eve of the harvest festival, the villagers gathered around the lake to celebrate the bounty of the season. As they danced and sang, a strange stillness fell over the gathering. The air grew heavy, and then, like a memory coming to life, the song began to play once more. This time it was louder than ever before, its notes ringing out across the village. The villagers stood in awe, knowing that the song had returned not just for them, but for every soul that had ever believed. The night air seemed to shimmer with the power of the melody, and the people danced together, united by its magic. With the song's return, the village once again became a place of wonder. It was said that the song chose a keeper, a special person who would be entrusted with preserving its legacy. Mira, the young woman who had first heard the melody, was chosen to be its new guardian. Mira accepted the responsibility with great humility, knowing that the song was not hers to control. Instead, it was a gift to be shared with those who needed it most. Each year, she would visit the lake on the night of the harvest festival, singing the song to honor the legacy of Clara and the many who had come before her. As Mira sang the song one night by the lake, she noticed something new. The melody, though familiar, seemed to carry a hidden message. The notes felt like whispers, urging her to look deeper. With each verse, she felt a strange connection to the past, as though the song was revealing secrets long buried. The song had always been a symbol of hope and unity, but now it seemed to be offering something more, guidance for the future. Mira understood then that the song was not just about remembering the past, but about shaping the future. It was a reminder that no matter what had come before, there was always the possibility of new beginnings. Mira spent many nights by the lake, singing the song and listening for its secrets. Over time, she began to understand that the true heart of the song was not in its notes, but in the love and hope it carried. The song had been a gift, passed down through generations, and it would continue to shape the lives of those who believed. It was not about hearing the song with the ears. It was about feeling it with the heart. And as Mira shared the song with the villagers, they too began to understand this truth. The song was more than just music. It was a way of life, a promise that no matter what, they were never truly alone. Years passed, and Mira grew old. She had passed on the song to countless generations, each one carrying its magic forward. As Mira sat by the lake one last time, the moon shining brightly above, she knew it was time to let go. The song had lived its purpose, and it had become a part of the village, woven into the very fabric of their lives. The villagers gathered around her, singing the song together. It was the celebration of everything the song had taught them: love, unity, and the power of believing. And as Mira closed her eyes for the final time, she felt the song one last time, carried on the wind, whispering its final note. Mira's passing marked the end of an era, but the song lived on. The villagers continued to gather by the lake, singing the song to honor her memory and the lessons it carried. The song had become a part of the land itself, echoing in the wind, in the rustling of the trees, and in the hearts of all who lived in Elmswood. It was a legacy that would never fade, a song that would never truly end. A song that would never truly end. The villagers knew that as long as they remembered the song, it would continue to guide and protect them, just as it had for generations before. The lake remained a place of quiet reflection, its waters still and calm. But even in its silence, there was an echo of the song that had once filled the air. Those who visited the lake could feel its presence, like a soft whisper in the breeze, a reminder of all that had been and all that would come. The legacy of the song was not just in the melody, but in the love and hope it inspired. It had created a bond among the villagers, a connection that transcended time. And as long as the lake stood, the song would live on, carried by the winds, through the trees, and into the hearts of all who believed. As Iris sat by the lake, The song's melody wrapped around her like a warm blanket. It was a sound unlike any other, soft, melodic, and filled with a sense of timelessness. The wind whispered through the trees, carrying the song deeper into her soul. She closed her eyes, letting the music fill her heart with peace. The song was no longer just a haunting melody. It had become a part of her, a connection to everything that had come before. It was a reminder that some things were eternal, passed down through generations, forever carried by the wind, the trees, and the waters of the lake. On the night of a rare lunar eclipse, the villagers gathered by the lake once again. The moon, now blood red, cast a strange light over the waters. As the eclipse reached its peak, the song began to play once more. But this time it was different. The notes were deeper, more powerful, as if the song had absorbed the energy of the moon itself. The villagers stood in awe, feeling the power of the song surge through them. It was as if the lake itself had come alive, drawing strength from the eclipse to renew the magic that had lived there for so long. They sang together, their voices rising in harmony with the song, knowing that this moment would be remembered for generations to come. The years passed, and Elmswood remained a place of mystery and magic. The song had not faded, but rather had become more powerful with each passing year. People from distant lands traveled to the lake, hoping to witness the miracle of the song for themselves. Many claimed to see the reflection of their own lives in the rippling waters, as though the lake held the secrets of time itself. The song, it seemed, had the power to show not just the past, but the future. The villagers understood that each note carried with it the potential for change, and with each passing year they embraced the lesson that time was fluid, constantly moving, always changing, but never truly ending. As the years went by, Ira became known as the new keeper of the song. She had learned to understand the melody's deeper meaning, and she carried the song with grace and wisdom. The villagers turned to her for guidance, and she shared with them the knowledge she had gained from the lake. She taught them that the song was not something to be possessed or controlled. It was a gift, a reminder of the deep connection between the past and the future. Ara knew that one day someone else would take her place, but the song would always remain, continuing to guide the hearts of all who listened with open minds and hearts. One fateful night, the song ceased. The lake fell silent, its waters still and unmovable. The villagers, once accustomed to the song, gathered at its edge, their hearts heavy with fear. Had the song finally come to an end? Had it abandoned them forever? Ira stood by the water, her heart racing. She felt a deep sense of loss, but she knew that the song's silence was not the end. It was merely a pause, a moment of rest before the song would rise again. She closed her eyes and whispered a prayer, hoping that the song would return when the time was right. The silence stretched on for days, and the villagers began to lose hope. But one night, as Ira slept, she dreamt of the lake. In her dream, the song echoed through the water, more powerful than ever. She saw Clara, the original keeper, standing by the lake, singing with all her might. Clara's voice seemed to reach across time, connecting all those who had ever been touched by the song. When Ira awoke, she knew what she had to do. The song had not left them. It had merely been waiting for the right moment. Ira gathered the villagers and led them to the lake, her heart filled with hope. As they all stood together, the song returned, more beautiful than ever before. The villagers rejoiced as the song played once again. This time, it was different. It was as if the melody had absorbed the energy of their hope and belief, making it stronger than ever. The song filled the air, its notes echoing through the trees and across the lake, a powerful reminder of the bond between the people and the magic that surrounded them. Era smiled, knowing that the song was not just a melody. It was a living, breathing force that thrived on the love and faith of those who believed. And as long as they held on to that belief, the song would never truly fade. Over time, the villagers began to notice something strange. The lake, though peaceful and serene, seemed to be hiding a secret. Late at night, when the moon was high, the water shimmered with a strange glow. Some claimed to see images reflected in the water, faces from the past, as if the lake was keeping the memories of all those who had ever loved the song. Era often stood by the lake, staring into its depths, wondering what the lake was trying to show her. One night, as she gazed into the water, she saw a vision of Clara smiling at her. Clara's voice echoed in Era's mind, telling her that the song was a part of something much greater than anyone could understand. It was a bridge between the living and the dead, a connection to something eternal. The years continued to pass, and the song remained a central part of life in Elmswood. It had become more than just a melody, it was the heartbeat of the village. Each time the song played, the villagers felt its power, its reminder that they were never truly alone. The song was a part of them, and they were a part of it. Ira, now an old woman, stood by the lake one final time. She had passed the legacy of the song to the next generation, knowing that the magic would continue long after she was gone. As she closed her eyes, she felt the song wrap around her, a soft, gentle embrace. She knew that the song would never truly end. It would live on forever, echoing through the hearts of all who believed. As Era's time came to an end, the song played one last time. The villagers gathered around the lake, their voices joining in harmony as they sang the melody that had shaped their lives. The song had become a part of the land, of the trees, the water, and the air. It was no longer just a sound, it was a legacy, a reminder of the power of hope, love, and belief. And as the final notes of the song faded into the night, the villagers knew that the song would live on. It would be passed down through the generations, carried on the wind in the hearts of those who believed in its magic. The song would never truly end. It would live forever, echoing through the ages. The night after Era's passing, a gentle breeze swept across the lake. The villagers gathered once more by the water, their hearts heavy with grief but filled with hope. As they stood in silence, waiting for a sign, the first notes of the song filled the air. It was soft at first, almost like a whisper, but soon it grew louder, filling the night with its familiar melody. The song had returned, just as it always had. The villagers felt the weight of Ira's legacy in every note. It was as if she were still with them, guiding them through the dark. The song, they realized, was not just a melody. It was a promise, a reminder that no matter what happened, the magic of the lake would endure forever. The new keeper of the song, a young woman named Elise, stood by the water as the song played. She had always felt a deep connection to the lake, and now, as the keeper, she understood its true meaning. One night, as the song echoed through the trees, Elise had a vision. In it, Clara and Ira appeared, standing together by the water, smiling down at her. They told her that the song would always guide the people of Elmswood, but it would also test them. The song's power came from the belief of the people, and only those who truly believed would hear its full melody. Elise knew that she had to protect the song, but also teach the villagers the importance of hope and faith, for that was the key to keeping the song alive. One stormy night, a great darkness swept over the village. The sky was filled with thick clouds, and the wind howled like a wild beast. The villagers were afraid, unsure of what was happening. But as the storm raged on, the song played. At first it was drowned by the thunder, but soon the melody rose above the storm. The song became a beacon of light in the darkness, its notes filling the hearts of the villagers with courage. They stood together, their voices joining in harmony, and the storm began to subside. It was then that they understood. The song had the power to push back the darkness, not just in the world, but in their hearts as well. Years passed, and the song continued to shape the lives of the villagers. Many who had heard the song felt its call, traveling from distant lands to witness its magic. Some claimed to hear echoes of the past in the melody, whispers of those who had lived before. One day, Elise met an old traveler who claimed to have heard the song many years ago. He told her that the song was not just a melody, but a living memory of all those who had ever loved the lake. It held the voices of the past, each note a piece of history, each chord a story waiting to be told. Elise realized that the song was not just about the future, it was a bridge to the past, keeping the memories of Elmswood alive for generations to come. On the night of the annual festival, the village gathered once more by the lake to celebrate the song. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the first notes of the song echoed through the night air. The villagers sang together, their voices united in a celebration of life, love, and hope. Elise stood at the edge of the water, watching as the lake shimmered with the light of 1,000 stars. She knew that the song would never truly end. It would continue to play for as long as the people of Elmswood believed in its magic. The song was not just a gift, it was a blessing. A reminder that even in the darkest times, there was always light to be found. And so the song played on, eternal and unchanging, a melody that would never fade, always filling the hearts of those who listened. Thank you for joining us on tonight's adventure. We hope the magic of the story has filled your heart with peace and relaxation. As you drift into a peaceful sleep, remember, dreams are where the most amazing adventures begin. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to like, share, and subscribe so we can continue bringing you more bedtime tales to help you sleep soundly. Don't forget to hit the bell icon so you never miss a new journey into dreamland. So long, Charlie. Until next time, sleep tight and sweet dreams from Stories for Sleep.